This cosplayer is in stilts. Let's keep that in mind. Judges, thoughts?
Okay, just the fact that they're on stilts. Come on.
For my Ranger Fern cosplay, I decided to go the extreme route and I made digistilts for my cosplay. This was not at all necessary. I could have literally done a million other things to replicate the shape of a fawn's leg, but I really wanted to go to the next extreme because Ranger Fern wound up being a cosplay that I used to challenge myself to the next level. That being said, before I even go into this tutorial on how I made my digistilts, I need to lay down a couple of ground rules and a little note and stuff just for housekeeping. Number one, just up front, these cost between $300 to $400 to make. They're not cheap. I would never recommend making these for one single use. You need to make these for multiple cosplays because otherwise it's not at all cost effective. Number two, do not skimp out on the materials that you are using. I personally used the Willow Creative tutorial in order to create my digistilts because I wanted something that would be very sturdy and something that I could use a ton. Do not skimp out on the screws. I know, trust me, I know the hardware for this cosplay literally cost $150. Just the hardware, not even the rest of the actual like stuff for this. Just the screws and the bolts. The reason they were so expensive was to make sure that when I'm using this, I don't snap my leg. So please make sure that you are very safe with this. Use high quality materials so that you are safe. Number three, please be safe when using these. Now, my digistilt has been made to my specific body, okay? It's at an angle that is comfortable for my foot, my ankle, legs, everything. You need to make sure that when you are making these, that you make it to how your body can handle this. It is an enormous amount of pressure to be holding on one central spot, and it can be dangerous. If you have any issues with balance, I do not recommend using these. If you have any issues with your ankles having severe pain, your legs having severe pain, muscle issues in your legs, I do not recommend using these. These put an enormous amount of strain on your legs. I can literally only like stand still in them for a couple of minutes before it gets excruciatingly painful. I usually have to keep moving in order to make sure that I don't like just start having really bad muscle pain. And I don't usually have muscle pain issues in my legs. It is literally just because of the angle that my foot has to be at in these things. The amount of weight that you have to balance in such a weird way in order to be able to stand in these effectively can really throw off your legs. So please just be safe and make sure that this is something that you can actually utilize. I just really don't want people to get hurt. And I really want people to know going into this that like, digistilts are really cool. Stilts in general are really cool, but like you really have to be safe with these or else you can seriously get yourself injured. And I don't want any of that to happen. Digistilts are stilts that are created in order for you to have an animalistic leg style. So most stilts just literally raise you up to a different height. These do a little bit extra. They make you taller, but they also allow you to have that very like angle sweep that an animal's leg would have. So for me, in order to make a fawn character, I really wanted to emulate that specifically, and I wanted to have the height as well. So, first things first, there's going to be a materials list. Please make sure you get the items that are listed for your safety and to make sure that you get stuff that's high quality. And just to let you guys know, I'm not sponsored or anything by this. So like when I'm linking stuff, it's literally just because it's like, it's heavy duty. Please don't die. The first thing that you're going to start with is the bottom part. What you're going to need for this are 2 different aluminum rods. I will have them listed somewhere in the video, somewhere floating around, pictures of them as well as the sizes and everything. You're gonna need 2 of these for 1 foot, so make sure you have 4 total. And then what you're gonna need are some right angle pieces. These right here are aluminum. You need about 4 of those because you're gonna have to have them for both feet. And then you're gonna have this massive black aluminum rail right here. This is gonna be the base for literally your entire thing. So these 5 pieces are going to be the foundation for your entire digistilt and are going to be the whole way that you stand up on these. Also, just so you know, this thing weighs like 10 pounds, so it's a little heavy. The main things that I realized when I was creating it is that you have to make sure that you have really good quality drill bits because you're gonna have to drill through all of this. Spoiler for something later, you will have to drill through stainless steel if you're using anything that's in American measurements. So please plan accordingly and make sure you have all the right materials to do that. You're gonna have to drill holes through your big aluminum rod as well as the two skinnier ones in order to be able to bolt your pieces together. Make sure that you're getting lock nuts for all of this, and you want to have stainless steel nuts, bolts, and washers for everything that's going to be supporting your weight. Just for full clarity, everything on here that is stainless steel is from here down in terms of the hardware, and then everything that's like the leg guard up and anything that's like unessential, doesn't hold your weight and stuff like that, that is all galvanized. Once you have all of your hardware, which I will list the sizes right here, you are going to make sure that you drill the correct size holes through. You are going to line up your aluminum bars with the holes that are on your right angle connector piece. Make sure you measure those correctly. Again, you're going to be wanting to use lock nut, screws, and nuts to make sure that everything goes together really well, and don't forget your washers. You may have to sand down some of the edges of the bolts themselves in order to make them fit, because they're going to be very close to the end of your main rail. So make sure that you, if you have to, file that down really gently, because otherwise it won't really fit super duper well. That was something that we found out. Another thing is that you're going to have to file down the very end of this aluminum rail right here so that you don't have like a random piece jutting out. You want to have all of this as flush as possible. Once you have everything screwed together and your base created, from there you can start adding on all the additional parts that are necessary in order to make this work. The next thing that you're going to do, and this is where the hard part comes in, these are going to be stainless steel brackets that you're going to be attaching. And in order to do it, if you're using anything that's American measurement, you will have to drill at least 2 holes through each, which means you need to have, I believe it's a titanium or a cobalt bit, in order to do so. This is hands down going to be the most annoying part and probably take the most amount of patience, but you want to make sure that you line everything up perfectly. These stainless steel brackets are going to be what you use to have your shin rest and your foot rest, and it's going to be what helps support you and counterbalance your weight. So the big thing with this is that you need to make sure that you measure exactly how wide or how narrow you need these pieces to be apart from one another. Depending on that, you might not need to drill it as much, but just keep in mind you need to have at least 2 screws going through both pieces into the main part of the rail. Again, this is for security, safety, and stability. Line those up, make sure that they are as parallel as you can get. You want to have them going in one straight line so everything is even. Bolt those in really, really well, and from there you can start working on making your footrest. To make your footrest, I used an ABS sheet, and then I just kind of like traced around my foot while I had the shoes on that I was using to wear the stilts. And then from there, I just kind of jigsawed it out, sanded around the edges to make sure that it didn't like have any rough edges, and then used the heat gun to warp everything so that it would fit securely down inside the actual brackets. To hold the footrest in, there are 3 screws that are used. You want to have 2 at the base down here at the bottom of the foot and 1 in the center, and this will help just hold it in really securely. You don't want that to go slipping and sliding because that's what you're going to be standing on. Make sure that for the screws that you're using, at least for the center one, you want to have something with as flat of a head as possible, because you could potentially feel it through your shoe. So anything that's like a larger bolt head is probably going to be really annoying, and you don't want to be able to file those down because you'll weaken the structural integrity. For the ones on the toe, it's not going to matter as much because you are going to cover those up with a footrest. I 3D designed and printed this myself. It is 100% infill of PLA plastic. I then used a heat knife to cut through the bottom part so that there's a little groove where the screws are so that it sits flush. And then in order to attach it, I used industrial grade super glue, squished it down, and it will not come off. Trust me, I tried. From there, I took the long aluminum rails and I used those to create the sides of what would be the counterweight for my legs. Now, one thing that I do highly recommend is that you make sure that you file down the edges so that you don't have any sharp edges. This goes for literally every aspect of the stilt. So anything that has a sharp edge, a blunt edge, anything like that, you want to make sure that you file it down to a smooth, rounded corner. If for any reason you slip, you fall, anything like that, if there are sharp edges, you are without a doubt going to cut yourself. So for like the aluminum slats that you're going to use for your counterweight, make sure that you round out those edges. Don't just leave them giant flat squares. You want to have them where they're fully curved around both ends, because if for anything, any reason, those are going to be the first point of contact, usually if you fall and hurt yourself. So if you have them rounded, you still might get a little bit of a scrape and bruise, but you're not going to completely slice your leg open. I feel like I'm saying this a lot, but please remember that this thing can be very dangerous if you do anything wrong. If you step wrong, it's kind of scary once you're on it. Anything that you do or anything that you're walking on that's like not a flat surface can be very dangerous. So please, please, please be careful. Once again, I use stainless steel for the bottom part of the counterweight. Everything else that's on the top of the counterweight is galvanized. You're going to attach these. And then you're gonna make sure that you have at least one top screw already drilled in. Make sure you drill in your 2 holes on either end. And then you're gonna wait to put the middle one once you figure out how you're gonna make your little counterweight shin guard. I used PVC plastic because I had a massive PVC pipe laying around. You can use really anything, you just need something that's very durable and like rigid. So hence PVC. You can also get another ABS sheet and use it instead. You're gonna warp this so that it fits around the edges of your 2 aluminum rails. Make sure that it is as flat on each side as it can be. So you wanna have as much of a right angle on each end so that it curves around and really has good contact with the aluminum rails. From there, you're gonna measure out where your second hole goes, because remember, you have a hole at the top that you've already put in, because you already know that you're gonna have one up there. And then you're going to have to measure out where your bottom one goes for your shin guard. From there, drill through everything, bolt it together. Again, we used galvanized for these top 2. It's okay to use that. I will let you know, full transparency, that this joint right here that is attaching the shin guard to the bracket does move sometimes. It is very hard to make it fully stiff because you are pushing against this shin guard with your entire weight. It still works really well once you have the counterweight line in, but just letting you know that if it wiggles, it's not a crisis. Now, for the counterweight line, this is very important. I didn't originally put this on when I made the stilts initially, and it was so critical in order to be able to move safely and securely in these. So I highly recommend doing it. You're gonna want a really heavy duty elastic cord and a couple of twist ties. What you're gonna do is you're gonna drill 2 holes. They don't have to be perfect, just kind of like in the grooves on the inside of this base aluminum rail. And then you're gonna loop them around the screws that you have at the very top of your shin guard. You're gonna use a twisty tie to secure this together, burn the ends of your elastic so it doesn't unravel. And then you're gonna twisty tie somewhere here in the middle, and this is what's going to provide your counterweight in order for you to be able to move and like push against it easily. Because what it's gonna do is that as you push against the shin guard and make this move, this counterweight, especially if you get a really durable elastic, is going to pull back so that you're not just falling forward. These aren't even fully bolted in. They are technically bolted in at the base, so like this isn't coming loose. So I added an extra nut at the end right here because we left these long to be able to put the counterweight on, and I never screwed it all the way in. Mainly because these are lock nuts, so like once you get it pretty secure, it's not going to come off unless you use a wrench. And it's literally just there to make sure I hold the elastic in place. I don't know. I'm lazy. I didn't care. It's been fine and nothing's happened since. So I'm just letting you know. Once you have the entire base construction, what you're going to have to do is add some straps. Now, these are very, very critical in order to hold your feet into the stilt. I will let you know, I just super glued these on with the industrial grade super glue and it worked super great. Nothing has come off. I can't get these off. I have tried because I thought about rearranging them and I thought about fixing one of them because I made it slightly too short. They won't come off at all. I've given up trying to take them off. But what you're gonna wanna do is have 3 down at the bottom to hold your foot in. You're gonna have a D-ring on one side and you're gonna have a Velcro strap on the other that has both sides of the Velcro on it. What this is going to do is allow you to cinch your foot in place, which is very important. You want a very snug fit. I will admit for myself, I almost pull it to the point where I like kind of start to lose feeling in my foot. Not enough that it's dangerous, but enough that it tingles, because then I know that my foot's not gonna move. Another thing is that you're gonna wanna have 2 on the back of your shin guard as well, and you're gonna have these in like a 2-inch webbing as well as like 2-inch D-rings and the Velcro as well. Make sure you measure these for your legs. I didn't do that. So like they're off, but they still work. But like make sure you measure these for like your calf thickness and stuff so that they're super secure. These are also going to go underneath the counterweight line as you're using it, not over, because you want to have the counterweight line fully free to be able to actually work as a counterweight. One thing that I also added recently that helped tremendously is a heel strap. Now I didn't have this originally and I had worn these around, but once I was in the cosplay, it became a very bad issue where like my foot would just come loose. And it's because wearing the fabric and everything else over the cosplay was causing my foot to literally shift out of these straps right here. So by adding a heel strap, when I was walking around at DreamHack, no issues. This did not come off my foot until I ripped it off my foot. Like I could not get my foot out. I sat there at the con, I think it was before prejudging, because I was double checking that everything would be good. And I put the whole costume on and I had the stilt on. And I started shaking my leg to the point that I was like borderline concerned I was gonna pop something out of socket. These would not come off. So make sure you add that heel strap. It is a life changer. So yeah, that is how I made the stilt. Again, everything is down below, but before I go, I'm going to show you a little bit more about like how to walk around in it. You're going to want to have a really good shoe that you're comfortable with, because this is what you're going to have to wear. You cannot do this barefoot. I tried it for some stupid reason. It was a really bad idea. Make sure you have a good sneaker. You want to have a shoe that you can lace up that's super tight. Now, I personally recommend when you are putting your stilts on, do not do it in a tall stool like this. I found that when I do it like this, I have to bend over so far to put them on because my legs are so much further from me, even if they're sitting up high, that it makes it really difficult. And if I'm wearing a cosplay that's really bulky, I can't reach down that far. So make sure to sit in like a normal chair. I don't own a normal chair, so yeah. Also, make sure you label which one is which, because I almost didn't do that, and that would have been terrible. So I have like just a little Sharpie marker that says left and right foot. Alrighty, now when you are doing this for the first time, I highly recommend doing this either outside where you have a railing that you can use, or a walking stick or something like that. You want to have something that you can balance on, because this is such a huge difference of like, it's not just that you're standing on like a heel, you're standing on something that makes you so abnormally tall that it's like the disconnect is insane. So just like, again, practice, make sure you're safe. Okay, so for full transparency, I have not worn these since October, and it is December right now. So like my legs are a little wobbly right now because they're not used to this anymore. I practiced for, I want to say 3 months leading up, or two months leading up to Dragon Con, and then I practiced again pretty regularly after that leading up to DreamHack. So it was about 3 months of practice total. And even then, I am not comfortable walking around in these like at all at a convention. My biggest issue is that like when I'm in this, also sorry for like the really loud tippy tappies. When I'm like this, I can see my feet. I can see where I'm stepping. You can see I'm wobbling a little bit. If you lean back too far, you start to lose like the counterweight. So you need to make sure that you're like leaning forward. I have found that if I crouch too much, it hurts my legs more and it makes it harder for me. But if I'm like standing up straight, it's okay. I can already feel my legs shaking now too. So like, not great. You can see the height difference already, like at my door. The other thing is like these are not great on any kind of uneven surfaces, anything that's slippery. Also, going like downstairs is terrifying. I literally have to like crab walk sideways to get downstairs because the idea of like stepping down the stairs normally is so terrifying, because like the way that I have these set up, it's like a 6-inch difference, I think, give or take. So it's like so much more of my foot that is nowhere near the ground, and all of a sudden I'm having to walk down steps that might not even be wide enough, but I have to be careful that I step down fully or else like the back of the stilts are gonna get stuck. So I want to set this down for a second. I got pretty confident to the point, like you'll see, well, obviously you saw at the beginning of the video. I walked up on the DreamHack stage and I didn't have any issues. I remember I walked into judging and it was a little bit bad because again, like standing still for me is really difficult. Like my legs really hurt and I don't get why. I bike pretty regularly, but it feels like it's a muscle that like I never exercise. So I don't know what muscle that is, but it hurts. Also, these are heavy. So when you're walking, you're lifting like 10 pounds on each foot, which means that you have to like lift your leg even more than normal because you're having to account for the fact that there's so much extra weight at the bottom, and you want to make sure that you're pulling it up high enough that you're clearing whatever it is that you're stepping over. So I'm going to set this down. I feel like that's hindering me too much, but like, you know, I'm going to stay looking at the ground because I'm still not super comfortable with these right now because it's been a hot minute. Carpeting weirdly feels scarier than hardwood floor, I think because it's got that little bit of squish. So it's like, when it's hard floor, you're making direct contact with the floor, whereas when it's squishy carpeting, it's like, oh, how far am I gonna go? I don't know if I can crouch. I used to be able to. Okay. This isn't terrible. It's a little scary though. It is really cool when you're all decked out in your costume wearing these. And I'm so excited for my future builds that are going to utilize these because like, it's really cool to feel massive and to tower over everyone. That was chaotic. And if you have any questions, please let me know and leave them down below in the comments, or you can DM me on Instagram or something. But I hope this helps, and I hope it kind of showcases the Digistilts as well. And I've kind of talked about like the pros and cons. Oops, as I hit the door. I like them. They're annoying. They're expensive and they hurt, but like they're a lot of fun. So anyway, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all next time.